Welcome to SDL City Showdown. I'm AJ, and I'm joined by, well, actually I'm not joined by anybody this time. Unfortunately, my co-host decided to abandon ship. So Andre has some family that he hasn't seen in a long time, so unfortunately he wasn't able to see the game, and we'll have to rewatch it in the coming days. And Steve, this guy, what a bum. He's in like Bermuda or something like that on a cruise. Like, how dare he? This podcast is more important. Anyways, we're going to talk tonight, and I'm going to go through 2 games. And the first game is going to be 3 words. And the 3 words I have for this game, and I'm kind of curious what you guys would say as well, is we did all right. I wouldn't say we did great. I wouldn't say we did poor. I'd say we did all right. I think if we went through the comment sections on Reddit, Blue Sky, or whatever, most people are going to say, absolutely, this offense was so much better, leaps and bounds better than what we've seen so far. In fact, we'll kind of move to goal or no goal, straight into the second game here. Mo State Wine Guy said, I'd take Critch 100 times compared to Olaf. Well, of course, Olaf, nothing was happening. It was not only losing ball, but it was boring ball. Why would we ever want that? Now, one thing I wanted to kind of bring up, and this is just a thought that I kind of had, is that, yeah, it sucks to lose. We had a win last game, and it sucks to lose. But a couple things, and Steve would get really angry if I mentioned moral victory, so I won't mention it. I'll just simply imply it. So the thing is this was against a Portland team who's number 4 out of 15 teams in the conference. They're a tough team. Like, they're a really good team, and especially in the first 30 minutes, we held them at bay. In fact, not only holding them at bay, we were certainly the better team. There is not a doubt in my mind. Once we hit that water cooling break around 32 minutes, it just didn't seem the same, honestly. And of course, after when they scored the first goal, it went downhill from there. But there was something about that cooling break. To me, it just makes me think, well, did their coach do some kind of change, like something that you would typically do at halftime, like some kind of adjustment? It's got to be something like that. Now, some people are going to get frustrated at Critchley because of this loss, especially if games in the future lead to losses or draws. Especially, I think next week we have LA Galaxy. Normally, I'd ask Steve because he usually has a really good handle on this. That's a trap game for us. If we lost or tied that game, oh my gosh, the fan base is going to go crazy. Now, the question I have for you guys, is it fair to judge Critchley on this? Because the thing is Olaf and every other team in MLS had a preseason of a few games, plus all the weeks of preparation. And even before that, these coaches were prepping like crazy, trying to figure out their team. And then basically Critchley gets promoted to the quote-unquote caretaker manager, and he's like, okay, here you go, good luck. And there's like very little time to prepare. Honestly, I know we're disappointed with this, and again, this is, I guess, a moral victory, and Steve's gonna get angry at me and probably beat my head in, but it was so much better. Not only was it better to watch, I felt like the entire time, for the most part, we had a fighting chance. Yes, even after their goal, I'm talking about Portland's goal, I still felt like we had a chance. And then for whatever reason, like, I don't know what they did. They must have injected some kind of like super serum into freaking Anthony, and he was doing like some magical moves. Like, what the heck? I don't know what got into him. Maybe he made that one move and it just pumped him up, and I don't know, something magical happened with that. A2 Eden on Reddit said, this is one of our best games of the season, and we lost. I agree. It was one of our best games, and yeah, we lost. But think about this for me, right? Right now, we've had a horrible season. Nobody's going to, like, almost like wooden spoon. Like, if it wasn't for LA Galaxy being so crappy, we'd be like a legit contender. If this was the beginning of the season, like let's pretend this was the first game of the season, I would look at this game and say, all right, like this is pretty legit. Like I feel like our team is flowing. Like I feel like there was some possibilities here. But the problem is we have this baggage that we had from Olaf and the team previous. If you guys didn't see, I don't know if it was Matt Baker or Jeremy Clements or one of these other cool guys out there that had said that some of the players were actually complaining that in preseason that they just weren't feeling it. Can you imagine that? In preseason, you're some of these players and you're just like, oh man, this isn't going to work. Like they just didn't have that faith. If you, some of you guys know the exact tweet I'm thinking of, and I'm just like racking my brain who this could have been. But that was super telling, right? It was super, super telling. So yeah, this is one of our best games of the season. Yeah, it's a loss. But if this was the first game of the season, I think there'd be something a little different here. Rip Aggressive one on Reddit said, what else do you expect when no one on our team can finish in front of wide open goal? Absolutely. Everybody's going to be saying this ad nauseum. We don't have finishers. And it's super frustrating. I'm not going to lie. I loved what Klaus was doing. He actually played a good false nine as far as like helping the midfield. There's no doubt. Like if we look at maclackbot.com and you look at the passes received location, we were heavy on the left side. If you guys kind of look at this, and I'll try to post this on Reddit later. You'll probably find me post this on there. And we were super heavy on the left side. It kind of makes sense, right? You had Reed over there, who's more of a offensive left back compared to our other options. And then you have Celio. Like literally, I agree with Klaus, and most of us do. He was probably the only person on this field that literally can play 1v1. And he had an all right game. Like some of his passes weren't great. I mean, he had a 68% passing rate, which is actually below average. But at least he provides some like dynamic ability. Like the announcer said, he was certainly unpredictable and he caused some trouble for the defenders for sure. But the problem is I felt like we were almost too predictable. The vast majority of our passes were on that left side. And I don't have the numbers offhand, but if you see this little clip it, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. We did make some passes up the middle, and that's where I was talking about. Klaus really helped that part of it. And then there was a little bit, like just a little sliver on the right side, nothing really of note, but I mean, you get some there. I want you guys to compare that to Portland. They also attacked the left side, no doubt about that. However, if you look at the heat maps for the passing receive locations, it was a little bit more, how can I say, diffuse or distributed. Like it wasn't so predictably only on the left side, but somehow we still did a great job. And I kind of wonder if it was this predictability that started us tailing off in this game, because maybe Portland saw this and said, hey, we need to reinforce that left side. Maybe that's what they did at the cooling break at that like 32 minutes. Maybe they said, hey, we need to focus on this left side. Well, for them, it would have been their right side, but you get what I'm trying to say. And maybe that's what helped kind of shut us down. Okay, let's see. What's the next thing I could pick here? So Snarf 12. What kind of name is that? I don't know. It's kind of cool, actually. But hey, whatever. Snarf 12 said, people are complaining, but this is way better than what we were seeing. Yeah, we're all kind of saying this. We get this. And it is only 1 week after full training. This team deserved a tie, but a loss to that home team. It sucks, but way more positive to look forward to than what we've haven't been seeing. Yeah, if Steve was here, he'd be like, moral victories. I agree. Moral victories suck, but it's true. He or she is making the exact same point that I was making, is that this team really has only had a couple weeks. Has it been a couple weeks? I forgot what day it was that Olaf was released. But okay, let's say a week and a half, 2 weeks, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. That's it. And we switched from a completely different system. Now, some of you guys are going to bring up, that's true. Last year, we had a lot of these players, like Hartel and Toyshirt and all those guys. They kind of know the system overall. And we picked these players because they kind of fit the system. But still, it's kind of generic. And the thing is yeah, these guys grew up playing 4-3-3 and 4-4-2. Like this is what they grew up their entire lives playing. They didn't play a 3-5-2 or anything like that, right? Very, very unlikely. Like when they're little ones, like you played the more traditional formations, I'm sure. Anyways, I digress with that. So let me go to the next thing here. Oh, yes, this is a great one. This is great. So, Blues Brother 57, rock on, man. I want to shout out to Zelensky for that kick ass double defensive play earlier. He is my personal highlight of the match. Yes, this guy, man, he came on the field and I felt like he made an impact. Obviously, he made an impact. He made that great double defensive play. To me, I felt like Totland was a little lacking. I know, like, I was really high on Totland earlier last year. But this year, I guess he was there. I mean, he obviously everybody's making some plays, but I just didn't really feel like he provided that huge spark. To give you guys an idea, and I get this, right? FOTMob is not the end all be all, but it's one of my favorite apps. And the numbers don't do what Steve and I and Andre like the best, which is eye test. But it does give us an idea. So Totland had a rating of 6.6. That's about average. I forgot the exact number. I think it's like 6.8, 6.6, something like that is what FOTMob does for average, right? To give you an idea, Watts had a 8.2. A large part of that is unfortunately they artificially inflate it if you get a goal. Pompeo, 7.1. Absolutely deserved. Absolutely deserved. I loved it. Berkey, superstar Berkey, 7.3. Now they gave Kessler 7.3, Baumgartel 6.8, Reed 6.4, Betcher 6.7, Hartel 6.8, and Morales 6.8. I actually think this is pretty fair, to be honest. And if you want to give a team rating, they gave St. Louis a 6.8 calculated rating and Portland 7.2. That's about what I would say. Honestly, the first 30 minutes, we were definitely the better team. But after the water break and before their first goal, it was kind of a mixed bag, honestly. We started losing it. And then after that goal, it just felt like we shut down. Now, again, is that part of this mentality that we had since preseason? If they started giving up on the coach in preseason, I could see why they're mentally not in there. Now, I'm not going to defend the players on this. You're a professional player. You're always playing for your career. You're playing for your contract. You're playing for playing time. You cannot shut down. You absolutely cannot shut down. You have to have your head in the game. And unfortunately, that's what I felt like for the most part. They lost it after that first goal. Now, there were some exceptions, and there's some tweet in here that somebody said in here, I'm not going to find it, but McSorley, holy moly, that guy, like a bull in a china shop. He was wrecking Portland in a way. Excuse me. All this talking, man. I loved what I seen. I'm not saying don't get ahead of ourselves here. I'm not saying he should be a starter. I'm absolutely not saying that right now. But man, coming off the bench, I loved what I was seeing here. I loved the energy he brought, and I get it. Right, like this is against a team like Portland and both St. Louis were tired. It was 95 degrees out, but I love the energy and the skill that he was bringing in there. And man, that hit he took to get that free kick, man, he earned that foul, no doubt. Now, the other thing I would kind of mention is, man, the Apple announcers are going crazy about 95 degrees out. It's the hottest that it's going to be. Come on, like these teams play in freaking Texas and everywhere in the South. This is just another day in the office. These guys can handle it. They're not babies, especially people who live in this kind of climate, especially if they're from the U.S. You grew up playing in this. Don't give me a break. Now, I get it. If you come from some country that has a colder climate, or if you're Canadian or something and you never really kind of grew up in this, whatever. But still, these guys had professional careers. This is the stupidest thing. It's so annoying. Then I get it. And I get it. And it does impact them some with the fatigue, but I'm not going to feel sorry for them, right? Like, give me a break. Obviously, I'm not even going to mention this, but one person says we need to sign a quality striker. You think, of course we need to sign a quality striker. Guys, we have the window coming up. And this is another reason why I really do not like the MLS being on the summer schedule, and I think it should be winter. And I guess we can debate this all day long, is that the summer window comes way too late. It comes 2/3 of the way into the season. What are you going to change at that point? We need this major window when most of the other leagues around the world are in the postseason, not postseason, but off season. We need to be at that time point. That way we can compete and try to get some of these big name players, not during the January window when it's just like, you know what I mean? Like we need to get people that are coming off contracts and stuff like that. I just, it's the stupidest thing. I just don't like it, but just wait. St. Louis, let's be honest here, right? Them firing Olaf, and I kind of mentioned this somewhere, and it was one of my comments. I think it was 13 games that Olaf got fired. That's one of the shortest tenures in MLS history. Yes, their history, one of the shortest tenures. I really believe that the team is actually listening to fans and they actually want to do right by the fans and they want to have a good team. We have a crazy fan base. You have to. What? As crazy as we are, we will walk out on you. We won't put up with a crappy product. We won't. And guess what? That's exactly what we saw. We had sellout after sellout after sellout after sellout. And then what happened? No more sellouts. We were getting 18,000 instead of 22, 23,000 in there. That's a sizable drop off. So I really do believe that they're going to come out, and I think they're going to come out swinging. And I think it's late July when the window opens, July, August, whatever it is. I really think they are. If they don't, then that tells you everything. That tells you absolutely everything. So one person had said here, Tella231 said, Lutz must. Yes, Olaf sucked, but this team's problems are not coaching. Lutz has had 3 years, and we are still fielding a top-tier USL team in an MSL league. We cannot compete at this level. Yeah, so there's some reasons why I give them some bias here. The first one is that this is a new team. We didn't have much of academy. We had to build this up. When we built our first team, we were kind of cherry picking leftovers. Remember how we went through the expansion draft? I know this is going to hurt when we talk about Kojima and losing him and stuff like that and him getting flipped to, I think it was DC. But we basically went through the same thing. And all these teams were protecting, the top 11, 12, whatever it is, 13 players. We kind of did the same thing. It's not like we're getting tons of quality picks here, right? Like this is going to take a while to build. It's normal for a team to take a while to build. And I get it. Everybody says like, let's spend money. Well, you can't just spend money recklessly either, right? Like you have to try to get quality players. I think he gets a little bit, in my mind, I think Lutz gets a little bit of buy. When you're doing something like this and building a team and coaches and all that, I think 3-4 years for a sporting director is realistic. I do think Lutz gets an extra year or two added on to that. And I know this is going to bring fire upon me from people listening. I think he gets an extra year or two added on to this because of that. Olaf sucking was bad hire. I don't have any reason to believe this, but I'm pretty convinced that it was Diego or somebody other than Lutz that hired this guy. It just didn't seem like a Lutz type of hire. If you told me that Olaf was German, then I'd be like, oh yeah, this is Lutz. It just didn't feel 100% like him. Just saying. So anyways, my personal opinion is I think we get a little bit of rebuild. I think he gets this next window here for sure to kind of see what happens. I think at the start of the 2027, like the 2027 is where his neck is potentially on the line here, except next year if we are horrible again. So like let's say like Olaf bad, then absolutely they're going to fire Lutz. But if we're like mediocre, Lutz ain't going to go anywhere, right? Because the other thing is you're not guaranteed that you're going to get somebody better. There's clubs all around the world that are trying to get the best sporting directors. It's not like money is unlimited. It's not like just because you have the money that you're going to spend and get the best person. The other thing is let's face it, we have one issue in St. Louis. And I'm from St. Louis. I grew up in St. Louis. I love St. Louis. But the realistic fact is that St. Louis isn't for everybody. And this is a problem not only for the players, but also for Lutz and stuff like that. Marco Reus, yeah, I don't like him. And I get that what Lutz said, that he chose a destination over actually playing football. I get it, right? Like St. Louis isn't like an ideal destination, right? Like Messi isn't going to come to St. Louis. He's going to go to Miami. He's going to go to potentially like a LA or New York or something like that. But we got to keep that in mind. What can we pull in naturally? Also, Lutz goes I mean, you got a club that's in turmoil. That's also going to be a harder sell too. So just throwing it out there. And by the way, the game is goal or no goal. Unfortunately, I'm used to doing this with my co-host, so you probably can guess when I was saying goal or no goal here. So you get the idea. Okay, Dr. D14 on Reddit said, trade Silva for a bag of chips. I don't know. I don't know what to think of Silva. Like, there's times where he makes some amazing runs. Like, he can get through and cut through lines like crazy, and then it just like he holds on to the ball too long and he trips. I'm going to say no goal on this because I don't know if I would just say trade him for a bag of chips. I think he has potential. I think we only have him for the rest of the season. He ain't coming back, I'll be honest. I don't think he's coming back. I don't know. I kind of would like to see him in a couple games, 90 minutes before I make a judgment, but I don't know yet. I don't know. I'm just going to say no goal for right now. Okay, let's see here. So Matt Baker on This is Blue Sky said, on a positive takeaway, Akil said, we're actually playing soccer now. It's enjoyable to play, and as we get better, we're going to win more games. Now, obviously, Watts had the solo goal for us. He prevented us from getting shut out. Of course, he's going to be on a high to some extent, even though he did lose. I would say it's kind of positive. Again, is this a moral victory? I don't know. But to me, listening to the comments about what they said about Olaf, the players, like the kind of rumblings, rumors, and stuff that they directly said, and then now you're hearing here we're actually playing soccer now. Like, what does that sound like? It sounds like they're actually playing soccer, like they gave up on the coach before. So I could only see something getting better. I know it sucks saying this, but I guess we are kind of, well, see you next year kind of thing. You know, maybe next year is our year or something. But it may actually be. Like, I like what I'm starting to see here. I'm not going to lie. We don't have the depth yet, but there's going to be a lot of turnover here. Not only are we going to have this window coming in, the summer window, but there's a lot of players getting off contract. So let's see. Talk about something else. Man, it's been rough for St. Louis today. Not only did City lose, but the Cardinals lost. I think it was like 7-2, something like that. And tell you what, the Cardinals, man, they have some fight in them this year. This is something I wish actually City had a little bit more of, because I feel like I haven't watched tons of Cardinal games because there's just stuff been going on, unfortunately. But I feel like the Cardinals, like if they're down by like 5 runs, they still fight. They don't give up. And actually, when we were watching this game here and we saw that they scored, Portland scored, the team kind of gave up. They did. And this is why I kind of wish they had a little bit of the Cardinals into them and said, you know what? Okay, it happened. It's okay. I guess we got to get another goal and kind of pad our resume. No big deal. Let's just go for it, right? Instead, they're like, well, we're going to lose. And then they kind of gave up. Like, give me a break. Come on. Okay. I think I'm going to end with one more Reddit post here. Barnacle Known. That's an interesting name. Said, one look at the statistics, and yes, there are some things to improve on, at an away game in Portland shows how dramatically different it can be in 2 weeks with the same people. And maybe even fewer considering who's out. Despite a 2-1 winnable game and a late goal given up, we looked so much better for a portion of the game, it was ridiculous. So I'm going to take the positive out. Under Olaf, it would have been a 4-0 Portland, and our XG would have been 0.03. Yeah, Steve, this one's out to you. I'm going to say goal because this is a kind of a moral victory one again, and I agree with this. They definitely look better. This 100% would have been a 4-0 game, especially if Anthony did what he was doing today in the second half. Oh, he would have tore us apart, no doubt. I don't care how good our 5-back system would have looked. Man, he would have tore us apart. Anyways, guys, thank you for listening. If you made it this far, you listened to me talk for a while, but don't worry. There's good news. Steve and Andre will be joining me next week. You don't have to deal with just me. So, that being said, what does Steve always say when we exit? He says, well, something like that.